Jim with Embervane here in this video, diving deeper into how to start making music on your computer. Let's go through some of the nuts and bolts that we're going to cover today. And the first one being, we already reviewed that you don't need to have a whole bunch of stuff to be able to start making music on your computer. You technically need only three things: a computer, something to listen on, headphones for example, and a DAW, a digital audio workstation software that allows you to actually make the music. That's it. Now, let's dig a little deeper into the DAW aspect of stuff. Like, how do you choose a DAW? What kind of DAWs are there out there? Well, let's look at a couple examples. Some example DAWs include things like Ableton Live, or FL Studio, formerly Fruity Loops, or Cubase, or Pro Tools, or Cakewalk, whole range of stuff. GarageBand, right? These are all DAWs. Now, very often people get hung up on this idea of, well, what's the best DAW? And I will tell you that the answer to that is the DAW that you can use to make songs. Like, that's the answer. There is no one best DAW. Sure, some DAWs will cater to other types of skill sets. For instance, you might see one DAW that's much fancier for mixing and maybe not as intuitive for production, actually making the music. That's fine. But does that mean it can't make the music? No, they all can. They all can. So I don't want you to get too hung up on here. I do want you to know that some of these DAWs will have free trials that you can use. And I highly encourage you to check that out. Let's imagine you find one of the ones that I mentioned, and there'll be some links in the video description below as to where you can find these. Then you might click on it and say, hey, look, there's a 30-day trial. Maybe there's a 15-day trial. Maybe there's a free version. Now, typically, you're going to see limits on free versions. They might not include all of the functions of the main DAW. You might not be able to open a saved project, for example. So don't think that you'll be able to get away, let's say, entirely for free, although there are some that are perfectly accessible, and GarageBand's a great example of that one. And here's another funny thing. When you have an awesome song, nobody asks, hey, what DAW did you use to make this? They either love the song or they didn't. Like, they don't care. That was kind of like saying, which hammer did you use to nail in the nails that built the wall of my house? I don't care. I just want the wall to be there and do its job. So don't get too hung up on this. However, as you are looking at DAWs themselves, just remember that you want to find one that feels good for you. If you open a DAW and you spend 10 minutes going through this thing and it just doesn't click and it feels overwhelming, it's not because you are bad or the DAW is bad. It's just that there are different strokes for different folks. Go ahead and try a different one. No problem. Okay? Find the one that fits your workflow and your style for where you are right now. While that may change over time, it's not the kind of thing that changes overnight. Now let's touch on the basic building blocks of music production. Talked about how to, in essence, look at a song as its parts, right? Well, it's not only its parts, like tracks, for example, the individual instruments that are layered up here, but also the skills and steps for song making. For instance, in the beginning, you may have an idea. You may want to stretch that out so then it fits into a song structure, kind of like a blueprint for the song. You then may say, hey, I want to arrange certain instruments to be able to play different parts during these different sections. You may then need to mix everything together so it finally becomes a final song. Oh, by the way, along the way, you may apply plugins or processing to actually affect the sound and get it to where you want it. All of these pieces are part of the basic building blocks of music production, as well as understanding things like I should probably have some kind of melody. Think of this as the main character. And I should probably have some kind of harmony, chords, chord progressions. Those are kind of like your backdrop or supporting characters. And together they all create the scene that you are trying to make. And while we're going to go into much more detail in later videos, just know that for right now, that's kind of an overview to give you a sense of what are those building blocks that actually make a song. It's also one of the areas where if you thought, hey, I plucked a few notes, I've got a song, it's like, I don't know. We might want to be able to push that a little bit further. most songs that are great have an element of simplicity, but they were also refined across time. They didn't fall in love with the first idea and try to build everything around it. They saw where it went. And that's an important part of the creative workflow. Now, when you are going to make your first song, and let's look at this as kind of a step-by-step process here, although it'll be loosely a kind of overarching view of things, just know that it's easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to start trying to fiddle with things instead of creating. Your brain cannot simultaneously create and edit at the same time. And because of that, every time we start fiddling, we take our brain out of create mode. There is a cost for switching these modes. And normally it is, oh, the idea is lost. It lost momentum, what have you. So try to stay inside this creative mode and get as much as you can out. And then remember, don't super fall in love with it because you're going to be trimming things around. You got a lump of clay at this point. The next step would be to take that clay and say, I need to start shaping it and then order it into these sections so I can arrange the different instrument parts that are going to be playing in different zones, so I can then use plugins and processing to affect the sound to get it where I want, so I can mix it, so it can be mastered, and so it can be finalized down the road. You can really avoid getting stuck here by thinking about each of these stages as their own little section. Don't be trying to mix when you're still coming up with ideas. You're just going to get yourself confused, and that's an easy way to kind of kill a song idea. Similarly, if you are in mixing and you already agreed on a lot of other stuff for the song, don't go back and think like, I wonder if I reroute this section completely, because now you'll just start a loop of never finishing the song, which is one of the biggest problems that people face when trying to make music, is finishing the actual song. Now, some beginner mistakes to avoid here that can help prevent you from getting in some of those feedback loops and not finishing are things like this. 1, if you overcomplicate your ideas and you try to do too much, especially if you're getting over your skis, this is bad. This is going to get you stuck. Here's why. I don't paint, but let's say I decide to pick up a paintbrush. And if right now I'm like, you know what I'm going to paint? I'm going to paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling. Like, I'm doing this. I'm all in. For one, I can guarantee it's not going to look like Michelangelo's. For two, that is a massive project. I don't have the skills yet to handle it. I need to choose something bite-sized. I need to choose something that allows me to learn and build my skills and confidence. If I set the complication level too high, I'm just going to get frustrated and not even want to finish the thing. Here's another one. I just mentioned Michelangelo's ceiling. Here's another one that people get stuck on. They start comparing themselves to other people. Other people who could have been doing this for much longer, have different skill sets, had help, who knows what, got lucky, whatever. It doesn't make any sense. When you're working on your song, it's one thing to say, hey, I'm listening to see if I'm in the ballpark of other songs that are like it in the genre. That's different. That kind of referencing is sort of just saying, if my song was playing on the radio next to these things, could it stand on its own 2 legs? That's fine. But the moment you start saying like, oh man, listen to that song, it's like mine isn't as good as this, you're going to kill the drive to finish that song. You should think of it as, this is the best that you can do right now, and that's okay. But that requires you keeping your ego in check. That's right. I said ego. Because ego is big in human beings, not just in music people, everywhere. And the ego wants to say like, I'm freaking awesome, and I should be the best, and I should have known this. And then you start hearing this start tilt, I should have done better. Why doesn't my stuff sound like theirs? And we've started to slide down, downward spiral, and it's a mess. You got to stay out of that. You need to explore, play, be curious, have fun. That is the kind of thing that gets songs finished. When you have the curious drive to finish this stuff. Now, if you chase plugins instead of chasing skills, or you chase instruments instead of chasing skills, this is an issue too. And here's why. When you have an ad that comes your way when you're doing music stuff, and it shows you this cool plugin, and you watch, and there's this demo, and it makes it look like, poof, magic, everything sounds amazing. It's real easy to think like, oh, my song isn't as good because I don't have that plugin. That is not true. The song won't be as good because you haven't built your skills up yet. Give yourself a chance, right? There's a lot to learn here. So when you are faced with these magic wand, magic bullet, magic pill kind of setups, just remember to take a breather, man. Like, it's okay. That stuff can wait. It'll still be there, okay? And remember, I'm a big fan of purchasing plugins, purchasing things that supports the companies that make these kind of stuff. However, you need to have the fundamental skills down first before you can even hope to be able to use those tools to their maximum capacity or even at a good capacity. So hang on to those for now. And don't worry, we're going to be going over a lot of skill-based stuff as far as these videos go. And when in doubt, head over to embervane.com. Check out some of the offerings that are there. There's free resources, even a free course to be able to kind of get you started. And that may be a good spot to check out as well. All of this kind of comes back to how to stay motivated. So we've already handled some of the mistakes you can make when you're trying to make music on the computer, but staying motivated is a key. One way to do that is to block out specific times where you're going to dedicatedly work on your song or work on learning music, this kind of stuff. Build the skills to then apply the skills and repeat again and again and again. And as a result, more and more songs. That's cool. But you'll want to avoid burnout as well. So if you find yourself sitting for 8 hours a day with your butt in that chair, not moving, working on the same song, beating yourself to death on it, it's probably well past time to take a break. Go take a break. Go step away from the desk. Don't think, oh, I'll lose it if I'm here. If you already got the ideas out and you saved stuff, you won't lose it. Like, it'll be there waiting for you. In fact, very often when you go out away from the desk or go listen to something completely different, your brain, it resets and you come back with renewed enthusiasm. That's a key to staying motivated. Not holding your nose against the grindstone so long that you burn your nose away, right? That's not a good thing. It's not what it's there for. Now, all of this comes from establishing a routine around music in your life. You might have some other job you're working at and be doing music on the side, trying to figure out how to make it work. You might only have 30 minutes in a night where you carve out, where you're like, okay, I can do it on this day. Maybe you've got some time on the weekend that you can carve out. Whatever it is, just like any other skill, you need to carve that time out, stay dedicated to it, and then be productive inside of it. Don't try to do too much. Be satisfied with where you're at and understand that as you are learning, it will snowball and then compound and compound to further not only your motivation, but your skills in getting songs finished. Now, overall, it is important to understand the entire song process. How do you make a song from idea to finished element? To do that, there's a free resource over at the Embervane site. It's called the Spark Flow Map. It takes it from that little spark of an idea all the way through, details out in 33 pages of glorious information, details out what you should be doing in each section so you can stay on track, and it is entirely free. There'll be a link below in the video to check that one out. In the meantime, keep making music. All right, that covers it for this video. If you got something out of it, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you'd like me to break down next. And if you want to check out the full interactive article on this topic, just click on the link in the description below. Now go make some music, and I'll catch you in the next one.